Out of every battleship ever sunk in combat, only 2 were ever caught on camera as they sank. One captain didn't even realize what he'd just done. Another crew had to fight for their lives while their own ship rolled over on top of them. Hit subscribe and stick around because you're about to hear 2 of the wildest sinkings in naval history. Look, battleships are massive, armored, and usually went down far out at sea. Cameras just weren't rolling when these giants sank, but twice in history, that changed completely, and both were filmed from start to finish. Here's what's genuinely crazy, though. These 2 disasters happened 23 years apart in 2 completely different wars against 2 completely different enemies. And yet, what happened was the same. A massive battleship sails out with an escort of destroyers built to protect her from exactly this kind of attack. A small, fast attacker slips through that screen without anyone noticing. And within minutes, everything falls apart. So what actually let these attackers through in the first place? That's where this gets interesting. Let's start with the first one. SMS St. Istvan was the newest of 4 Tegethoff-class dreadnoughts built for the Austro-Hungarian Navy, and she was actually the only one of the 4 built on Hungarian soil, in a port city called Fiume. Just constructing her cost more than 60 million krone, which was a staggering amount of money at the time. The shipyard wasn't even big enough to build a ship her size, so workers had to expand it before construction could start. She was finally commissioned in December of 1915, armed with 12 massive guns split across 4 turrets. But here's the part that catches most people off guard. For most of the war, St. Istvan barely left port at all. Out of 937 days in service, she spent only 54 of them actually at sea. That's less than 6% of her entire career. The Austro-Hungarian Navy kept their battleships anchored at their base in Pola, treating them more like a threat, sitting in the background than an actual fighting force. A lot of commanders in the fleet hated that approach. They wanted their ships out there, doing something. So what finally got her out of port? That changed in 1918 when a new commander named Miklos Horthy took over the fleet. Horthy refused to sit around any longer. He wanted to strike, and his target was the Otranto Barrage, a line of nets, patrol boats, and mines the Allies had stretched across the strait to trap Austro-Hungarian and German submarines inside the Adriatic Sea. If Horthy could break through it, he'd open the door for submarines to escape into the wider Mediterranean and start hunting Allied ships freely. But could Horthy actually pull this off without anyone noticing? On the night of June 9th, 1918, St. Istvan set out alongside her sister ship Tegethoff, escorted by destroyers and torpedo boats, heading south to link up with the rest of the fleet. And this is where everything started going wrong, almost immediately. Trying to catch up to the main force, St. Istvan pushed her engines too hard, and her turbines started overheating, forcing her to slow way down. When the crew tried to push the speed back up, her boilers started pumping out thick black smoke that could be seen for miles across the open water. In an operation that depended entirely on staying hidden, that smoke was about to blow the whole plan wide open. So, who actually spotted it? At around 3:15 in the morning on June 10th, 2 small Italian torpedo boats, MAS-15 and MAS-21, caught sight of that smoke while heading back from a routine patrol. They weren't even out looking for the Austro-Hungarian fleet. They just happened to stumble onto it, commanded by an officer named Luigi Rizzo, who'd already sunk one Austro-Hungarian warship 6 months earlier. Both boats slipped straight through the escort screen without anyone noticing and split up to attack the 2 dreadnoughts. MAS-21 went after Tegethoff and missed completely, but MAS-15 at 3:25 in the morning fired 2 torpedoes directly into the side of St. Istvan. So what actually happens inside a battleship when 2 torpedoes slam into her at once? Both hit right around her boiler rooms. The aft boiler room flooded almost instantly, and the ship immediately started listing 10 degrees toward starboard. Her crew rushed to flood the opposite side to level her back out, and for a moment, it actually worked, bringing the list down to 7 degrees, but water kept pouring in through the forward boiler room too, eventually knocking out every boiler except 2 on the port side. With most of her power gone, the pumps that could have saved her were barely running. So what do you do when your ship is dying beneath you and you're almost out of power to stop it? The crew tried everything they could think of. They turned the gun turrets toward the port side, using their weight to help balance out the list. They threw ammunition overboard to lighten the ship. Tegetov even circled back around at 4:45 in the morning to try towing her to safety. None of it worked. The water just kept rising. For almost 3 hours, St. Istvan fought to stay afloat, slowly rolling further onto her side while her crew gathered on deck, using their own body weight in one last attempt to hold her balance. At some point, even her chaplain stepped forward to give the men still aboard one final blessing, and the entire time cameras were rolling. An officer aboard Tegetov filmed the final half hour with his own personal camera, while an official military film crew captured the same moment from a different angle. That footage would later be pieced together into one continuous sequence showing a 20,000-ton battleship rolling completely over and vanishing beneath the surface. At 6:12 in the morning, St. Istvan finally capsized off the island of Premuda. 89 men were killed, a surprisingly low number for a ship this size. Why so low? Mostly because it took so long to sink, giving most of her crew time to escape, and because every sailor in the Austro-Hungarian Navy had to know how to swim before joining up. Her captain, Heinrich Seitz, had actually planned on going down with his ship, but he got thrown clear when she finally rolled, and he survived. Horthy, watching from a distance, assumed the Italians had somehow discovered his entire plan, so he called off the rest of the attack completely. In reality, those 2 torpedo boats had stumbled onto his fleet by pure chance. But the damage was already done, both to morale and to the mission, and the fleet turned back for Pola, where it would stay for the rest of the war. As for Rizzo, the man behind the attack, he went on to earn a second gold medal of military valor for the sinking, and MAS-15 itself was later put on permanent display in Rome as a monument to the attack. But that's just the first battleship on this list. The second one is even more sudden, and it happened almost by accident. Let's jump forward 23 years to a completely different battleship in a completely different war. HMS Barham was one of 5 Queen Elizabeth-class battleships commissioned back in 1915, and by the time World War II broke out, she'd already survived plenty. She'd fought at the Battle of Jutland in 1916. She'd survived being torpedoed once before, back in 1939, by a different German submarine. She'd fought at the Battle of Dakar, taken bomb damage during the evacuation of Crete, and helped cripple Italian cruisers during the Battle of Cape Matapan. This wasn't some untested ship fresh out of the shipyard. Barham had already earned her stripes. So how does a ship with this kind of track record end up as one of only 2 battleships ever filmed sinking? By November of 1941, she was sailing with the 1st Battle Squadron alongside Queen Elizabeth and Valiant, escorted by 8 destroyers, supporting British forces fighting against Rommel's Afrika Korps in North Africa. The mission was simple: find and stop Italian convoys before they could deliver supplies to enemy troops. Just 2 days earlier, a smaller group called Force K had already sunk one of those convoys. But Winston Churchill wanted more, sending a direct message to Admiral Cunningham saying that stopping these ships could save thousands of lives. So the fleet sailed out again, and Barham was right in the middle of it. What none of them knew was that a German submarine, U-331, commanded by a young officer named Hans Dietrich von Tiesenhausen, was already hiding beneath the surface nearby, and had actually been tipped off in advance about the British fleet's movements. For several days, Tiesenhausen carefully maneuvered his boat, staying hidden while destroyers passed directly overhead without ever spotting him. Then, On the afternoon of November 25th, he surfaced just long enough to spot smoke on the horizon. Within minutes, he could make out destroyers and 3 full battleships heading straight toward him. Here's the part that should have saved Barham. As U-331 moved in closer, a sonar operator aboard one of the escorting destroyers actually picked up something in the water. So why didn't anyone act on it? The contact seemed too wide to be a submarine, so it got dismissed as nothing. That one mistake let U-331 slip completely through the destroyer screen undetected. Tiesenhausen lined up to fire, but his first target, one of the lead battleships, was already out of position, so he shifted his aim to the second ship in the line, Barham. At 4:25 in the afternoon, Tiesenhausen fired all 4 of his bow torpedo tubes from just over 400 yards away, an incredibly close range for an attack like this. 3 of the 4 torpedoes struck Barham almost at the exact same moment, so close together that men watching from Valiant thought it was a single, massive explosion. There was no time to react, no time to turn, no time for anything at all. Barham started rolling immediately, listing hard to port, and because she was an older ship without much modernization, she went over fast, still moving forward through the water even as she kept capsizing. Crewmen scrambled up onto the exposed hull, trying to get clear before she rolled all the way over. Then, roughly 4 minutes after the torpedoes hit, one of her main magazines exploded in a blast so massive it tore the ship apart from the inside, throwing men and wreckage high into the air before they crashed back down into the sea. A later board of inquiry believed the explosion started as a fire in the smaller 4-inch magazines before it spread into the main 15-inch magazines and detonated everything at once. A cameraman from Pathé News, standing aboard the nearby Valiant, captured the entire sequence in one continuous shot. The footage shows Barham rolling onto her side, sailors leaping and sliding off her hull into the water, and then that final explosion ripping through the ship's structure. What was it actually like on board in those final seconds? One survivor, Lieutenant Wolf, described standing near the bridge when the first explosion hit, watching the flash appear right above the funnel, then feeling 2 more explosions follow. Just seconds later, in the chaos, he even handed his own pocket knife to a crewman who was struggling to cut loose one of the life rafts. He made his way down to the upper deck, where the rest of the crew was already going over the side without any hesitation, and he ended up sliding down the hull into the water just as that final magazine explosion threw him backward into the sea. Out of Barham's crew of over 1,000 men, 862 were killed. The destroyer Hotspur pulled 337 survivors out of the water, while the Australian destroyer Nizam reportedly rescued another 150. As for Tiesenhausen, he crash-dived his submarine so hard trying to escape that he went nearly twice as deep as the boat was ever rated to survive. And somehow, it held together. But here's the part almost nobody knows. Tiesenhausen wasn't even sure what he'd just hit. He radioed back that he'd struck a Queen Elizabeth-class battleship with a single torpedo, and that was it. To protect morale and keep the Germans guessing, the British government actually kept Barham's sinking a secret for weeks. And next of kin were warned not to discuss it with anyone outside close family. It wasn't until the sinking was finally made public months later that Tiesenhausen learned the full scale of what he'd actually done, and he was awarded the Knight's Cross the same day the news broke. So one captain sank a heavily protected battleship and didn't even know it for months. And on the other side of the story, an entire crew watched their own ship die in slow motion across nearly 3 hours, filmed from start to finish. 2 completely different battleships, 2 completely different wars, and to this day they remain the only footage of its kind in existence. So those are the only 2 battleships in history ever caught on camera as they sank. What do you think about footage like that existing at all? Let me know down in the comments. And if you're into naval history like this, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next one.